And I remember I had a couple other clients, and I reached out to one of them, and I said, like, how are we doing? And he said, great. He said, like, we've already closed 3 cases this week. This is the benchmark we ran in our agency. It's still true, by the way. If I got a $3,000 per month service, then I'm willing to spend $3,000 at least. What you usually find is that there's people out there who love the things you hate. Welcome back, everybody. Awesome to see you guys as always. I love that you guys are kicking ass. I love that you guys are out there doing stuff. Like, you know what I seriously love about you guys for real, and this is the honest to God's truth, is like you guys go out there and make shit happen proactively. I feel like there's way too many victims in our world, and I love those people too, but I don't always find them easy to take in like anything more than small doses. But you guys are the fucking man. Our man John is on, by the way. Congrats on the huge milestone unlocked. Selling through video, my man. And also, I would say it makes for an easy transition in order to update clients on video. So you can actually make the whole thing phoneless. And the real secret to doing it all phoneless is there's infinite leverage when you can start to sell through video. There's infinite leverage when you can start to update clients through video, meaning you can be sitting at the beach or, in the mountains climbing, or at the strip club, or whatever your kind of brand of choice of a good time is, and stuff is still getting done on your behalf. So that's the exciting thing. Really excited for you guys. For those of you guys, by the way, who aren't in the mastermind, I think it's the coolest thing ever. But I've been setting it up. I wanted to, like, a lot of times people ask me, do you have a course? And I don't do courses and that are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 step, like do all these steps, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't think they work for the long term. Like, I remember Ty Lopez sold a social media course for like how to get roofers and general contractors, and he included an outreach script. Well, he sold 60,000 copies of that course, and everybody uses the same fucking script, and it no longer works because they all get the same message a gazillion times. And so that's what happens if you just copy and paste what everybody else is doing. But what we've done is made it all principle based, so it's all paint by numbers, meaning we have templates and tools and things like that for you guys to be able to go get clients, to get leads, to convert them, automations, onboarding people, hiring, building teams, systems. All of it is set up for you. My goal with all of it is to take what would take you 8 years in your agency and condense it down to 8 weeks, and have it be essentially all it would cost you is like help with one client, which we can get you inside the mastermind anyway. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, beyondagencyprofits.com/wolfpack. I actually just updated the video like 2 or 3 days ago to show you guys what's inside the new members area as well. So if you're interested, check that out. Anyways, let's get into the good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. I sound amped today, and I'm really not. It was a tired, exhausting day with children last night. The little man woke up a lot, my middle one woke up a lot, and my oldest one, who normally sleeps perfectly, was not having it. So we got the 3 times sleep interruption. But I'm feeling good, happy to be with you guys. So first we got Daryl says, question on proposals. I've recently had multiple good conversations with prospects where everything seems to be moving in the right direction. Then they say, send me a proposal, and things fall apart. Now, I believe that's either because my graphic design skills from a decade or so ago are comical, or more likely it's not including everything in said proposal that the client is looking for. Is anyone willing to share a killer proposal template? Not all the details, or how do you respond when a proposal is requested or asked for? I'm going to give you a multifaceted answer. John says I need some caffeine. I'm all right, my man. Excuse me. So first thing is, I want you guys to understand, a proposal is a symptom of a resistible offer, meaning more than likely your offer sounds exactly what they can get somewhere else down the street for cheaper. And so what we want to, as a general rule, is create what is known as a mini monopoly, where you are in your own little category of one, and you are the only one who does what you do. You'd be amazed at how less often you get proposals when you're the only one who does what you do. So having said that, I want you to understand that, like, if everybody's asking you for a proposal and then they're kind of blasé about, like, working with you, it's a sign that you got a Me Too offer. So that's actually the thing I would look for is there's something happening before the moment of proposal that's making your whole proposition resistible. Having said that, in a proposal, it's actually very similar to what I wrote in the book about expectations. Here's what results we can create. Here's how long. Here's the time that we expect. Here's the communication, and here's what I need from you. That's what goes in a proposal, and you can actually do that in a single page. I actually recommend always do less with proposals, not more. I used to make these long-winded custom proposals, and it would drive me fucking crazy that nobody read them. And when I started making just like 30-second video summary, people watched them. So I would suggest nail those 5 things, and you'll make your proposal life easier. Having said that, one thing that I would do, and I wrote kind of briefly about this in the group, but there's a huge difference between you send a proposal out. Almost always everybody has the same question when you send a proposal out, which is internally you're thinking, do you want to buy it or not? Right? Like that's what we really want to know. And if not, let me know so I can move the fuck on, right? Like I don't want to chase you for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I'll tell you what we found to be the best thing for that is automation. And there is a difference between following up, and most people do follow up in the form of like, so, have you seen my proposal? And they say, no, not yet. And then you just like, you're in this limbo where you're waiting for them to just tell you one way or another. So what we found is following up with power is you want to add to the decision and don't assume that they got everything the first time. So here are some things you can follow up with power. And by the way, we do these all automated. So like when I say follow up with power, as soon as somebody says I'm interested, they get 2 weeks of automation in our world anyway. And so firstly is if you got case studies and proof from testimonials and all that shit, like hammer them with it. Hammer them with it. In a pleasant way. Like I don't mean like ram it down their throat, but in a sense of like make sure they know, like I've done this for lots of people, if you got it. You can always answer frequently asked questions. How much is it? How much does it cost? How does this work? You can explain how the process works. You can talk about what your plan is to get them results. All of those things can be done in follow-up. You want to think about it as adding to the decision. But having said that, all of the place I would look for is making your offer stand out from the noise, because if you do that, like the whole thing will get easier. Yusuf says, I need to widen my network. Ideally, daily contact with like-minded people that are trying to grow their digital ventures. Thinking your private group is a good idea for this. Can you give me a quick rundown of the benefits of your private group, costs, and anything else you feel would be worth knowing? I'll send you a link to that, but anybody else who's interested, our mastermind is really like our private group, beyondagencyprofits.com/wolfpack. And what Yusuf said is really spot on. As a general rule, like when I first started, I remember I ran into a young kid named Dan who is in our group now, but he was 15 years old and he was selling $2,000 per month SEO package. I could not fucking believe that random strangers would pay a 15-year-old $2,000 per month. And Dan is like short on top of it, so not only was he 15, but he looked like 11. And I'm like, how the fuck are like people paying a guy who looks like 11 years old $2,000 per month? And we used to meet regularly. It was our little mastermind of one, and talk about all things agency and SEO and growth, and what was working and what didn't, and problems. And he says, like, he maintains, like, he learned so much from me, but I also feel like the reverse was true. So much of the shit I learned, it was just so freeing to have one other person. Back in those days, there were not masterminds, there were not books, there were not courses. Dan was the only fucking other person I knew in existence doing what I did. I couldn't tell my friends about it. I couldn't tell my families. Like, nobody understood what we were doing. And over time, I've made this a mission of mine. Like, part of why I built a community is because I feel like I can never know too many fucking cool agency owners. So I think the more you guys do that is you intentionally connect with colleagues. And of course, as Yusuf mentioned, like masterminds and groups and private communities can speed that up. But in general, like, I feel like you'll learn just as much. Like, I see this all the time, okay? So, like, here's an example of how, like, a community benefits. Imagine 2 people are stuck on the sales process. One person says, I'm getting all these leads, but I can't fucking close them. And another person says, I know how to close people when I get them, but I don't know how to get any leads. Right? Like, often the solution is just put those people together and let them talk, and they share. They both have the answer to the other one's problem. So this happens all the time when you guys build. Like, when you guys, like, make it your intention to build your community. You'll just get better at this. So hope that's helpful. Shoria, I hope I'm saying that correctly. He says, guys, I've been sending great offers after reading Frankie Fihn's book, but I'm still not getting replies. They are as follows, short and to save everyone's time. We figured out a SaaS way with low-touch onboarding process to get at least 10 additional pre-qualified and pre-sold leads to your SaaS every month organically by creating comparison pages for a one-time investment, which you pay after you get the results. Number 2, we help B2B SaaS with 5K traffic to get at least 10% monthly organic. Number 3, we figured out SaaS with low touch onboarding, get at least 20 additional pre-qualified, pre-sold trials. Number 4, 10, we can start getting 10% monthly organic traffic. I'm shortening these just to not read them all for you guys, by the way. Number 5, we figured out how to help B2B SaaS businesses that meet certain criteria to improve their month after month MRR growth rate by 10% within 45 days. We won't charge you anything. I'm not able to understand why the reason no one is biting any of these offers. Any help would be appreciated. So firstly, Sharia, my man, kudos for like putting yourself out there and trying shit and like striking out. Like not enough people take at bats in general. Like the biggest reason like most beginners fail in the agency space because they just don't do shit. So you're doing shit, and I understand your frustrations when you're putting stuff out there and you don't know why it's not working, you're not getting any feedback, and nobody tells you why it's not working. So I want you to think about, like, in its simplest form, is an irresistible offer is to solve painful everyday problems for people and to create irresistible outcomes. Now, a lot of times when people think outcomes, they think big. Usually I think outcomes are better if they're small but meaningful. So I'll tell you, like, on the outcome front, what jumps out to me is this is especially where you're missing the mark, is because they're not really outcomes. Like, hey, I can get 10% more. Like, nobody can go to the bank and spend 10%. It's like it's an abstract kind of vague idea. It's way better to be like, I got an idea to bring you a new SaaS trial before today's up than it is to say, like, I'll get you 10% increase and blah, blah, blah. Like, people can't. I find this, it's really funny too, because a lot of times people want to encourage referrals in the business, and they'll say, I'll pay a 25% month after month recurring. And it's actually a huge percentage. It's like a huge percentage to give somebody. They can make like $5,000 a year. And I found it doesn't work as well as just saying, I'll give you $1,000 now. Or I'll give you a brand new iPad now. Or I'll buy you a brand new phone now. Right? Because they can touch a phone. They can taste a phone. They can spend $1,000. But like a 25% recurring month after month, it's too abstract. So that's the first thing, is you're not actually describing outcomes. The second thing is, I have a feeling you haven't had enough conversations with these SaaS people to find out what the painful problems they're trying to solve today are. I'm assuming they're related to acquisition, at least some of them, but you also need to know what else they've tried, why they see that not working, what they would like to see as an outcome, and things like that. If you don't know that, very hard to come up with an irresistible offer. So I always say step one of the market is to listen. And I'll give you an example of this, okay? This is in a completely different industry, but it just makes the fucking point, okay? So I have a friend named Stephen Fairley who like crushes it in the legal space. They do like 20, 30 million a year, like big company. And one of the things Stephen said is he was talking about how he was helping a real estate attorney. This is just like a little private one-on-one conversation. And the guy was struggling with trying to get deals. And he went to the two places he gets most of his deals from, which are mortgage brokers and real estate agents. And he said, what do you hate about working with title companies and real estate attorneys? And that's a good question, by the way. What do you not like about blank? What do you hate about blah, blah? What painful problem? And they all said one thing. They said, they fucking take forever to send me my commission check. And it turned out like most of these people are living paycheck to paycheck, and they close a deal, and now they're expecting a $10,000 check, and they gotta wait. They gotta wait and wait and wait and wait. And even after the deal's closed, sometimes they have to wait weeks and weeks and weeks, and they're waiting on that paycheck to pay all their bills and feed their family and whatever they got to do. So he created an offer that was, if you use my title company, I will mail you your commission checks via FedEx within 24 hours of closing. And immediately everybody said, like, holy shit, that's our guy. And he actually, he like quadrupled his business in like 6 months. It was crazy the amount of growth they had. But the irresistible offer came out of a real painful problem. Like, they don't get our commission check fast enough. And his small but meaningful result is, I'll get it to you right away. Because you guys are the people who pay my bills. So if you're struggling with the irresistible offer, it's almost always because you're guessing at what your audience wants and you're guessing wrong. Okay? So the only thing you can do is, I call it active listening, meaning like join SaaS groups and look at the questions they ask again and again and again and see what gets upvoted and see what they get stuck on, and or like directly initiate conversations and say like, hey, you're somebody I would be really interested in working with down the road. Would it be okay to have your feedback? Like, what's the hardest part about what you're doing? What do you hate about blank? What are you stuck on? What else have you tried? Those kind of questions will help you come up with irresistible offers, because as long as you're saying like 10%, the sexy part of your offer is the risk reversal. Like, that's the part you're probably fixated on, because it's like you don't have to pay until it works. But nobody gets up excited and says, I want to get 10% today. I want to get 10% increase in traffic. Like, that was one of the variations. So that's where you're missing the mark. But if you say, hey, like, if you identify something they really fucking hate, like, you sit on my commission check and I'll get it to you right away, like, you'll be amazed. Your offer will be downhill. So, like, the only person who can help you get unstuck on that are SaaS owners. So I would spend, like, my next action if I were in your shoes would be spend 2-3 hours like reading all the SaaS communities and seeing the questions people ask and the things people get stuck on, and creating offers out of the very problems they have. So I hope that's helpful, my man. Franco says, hey guys, doing some research for a client who will be launching an agency and was looking for insights. Are there any agencies here targeting local businesses whose service offers a direct ROI transformation for their clients? What niche are you guys in, and what results are you promising your clients? For the most part, Franco, I only really see like ROI promises for online marketing stuff. We'll get you to 10K, we'll get you to 100K, whatever, those kind of things. Having said that, I mean, there probably are scenarios they could work under, like for local businesses. The flip side of that is you have to choose your dance partners very, very fucking carefully. Like, if you're working with a dentist and you can't see his books and you can't see his back end and you can't see all of those things, like, you got to be fucking sure that like you trust that person and they're going to actually pay you. So like, yes, absolutely, it can be done. Like, in some of our revenue share deals are like that, but I would really, 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 really screen hard. And you do that with first dates and see whether or not they're even worthy of that trust. Like, if you bring a dentist 10 leads and he doesn't tell you how many of them closed and how much he made, and he's not transparent about his books, like, there ain't going to be a second date. Like, that's the end of that. So yeah, it can be done. The closest and easiest version I found that, and I got a good friend, Dan Wardrope, who's got a cool community called Paper Lead Ninjas that focuses on this, is the closest thing that, because it's hard to get into all their back end in their books a lot of times, not even because they're not transparent, because they don't even fucking know their numbers, right? So you're asking them to show you their numbers and they don't know them, right? So the closest thing is just selling them a set lead per cost. I found this with attorneys. Attorneys cannot legally pay anyone, a non-attorney, a fee, but what they can do is pay like a set marketing cost for a lead. And so what you do is you say, okay, you're willing to pay $1,000 per signed case, and if we send you 5 leads, you close one of them, let's just price those leads at $200 a piece, and then it'll work out to about $1,000 per signed case. Does that work for you? So there are ways around it, but in general, it's trickier with local businesses because they don't have like transparent back ends and books. As we're an online business, you can install like an affiliate software and all kinds of tracking and tools, and you'll know all the numbers really, really quickly. So those kind of offers tend to work better, or they're easier to make for online businesses because you can find out. But having said that, there are scenarios under which you can make that work, and that's essentially what revenue share is in a nutshell. Our man Booze says, what would be your 2 conditions for accepting somebody as a client? I don't know if there's just 2, but I'll tell you there are 2 things I look for, and they fall into 2 very distinct buckets. I look like I'm grabbing a boob. This is a bucket, not me grabbing a boob. Maybe it is. Maybe that's why I got 3 kids. Bucket number 1 is attitude. Okay, so if somebody's like I don't know if you guys ever like gotten on a sales call and the person's like, just fucking answer my goddamn question. Like, if you're that assholey and grumpy before we even started, like that's a no for me, dog. And so I'm looking for signs like, are they cool? And a lot of people don't understand the process by with which you recruit the client determines the level of trust they will have and how cool they are and how long they stay. So there is a factor of like, what process did you bring them in the door? Like, there's a huge difference between somebody went to a mastermind, they asked who's the best person, and they got referred to you versus, hey, I got a cold outreach message from you. Like, the amount of trust is going to be significantly lower. Having said that, I look for attitude, and so I'm looking for signs like really like you're just going to be fucking cool. And so I have all kinds of red flags. Like, and by the way, people always ask me, can you find that out? How do you find that out if you're closing through video? Well, there's still a little bit of back and forth chat, and if somebody's an asshole, they'll be an asshole in chat too. So we can actually tell from like 3 or 4 sentences if they're like, just send me the fucking video already. Like, okay, like, I'm not going to send you the video, and let's just say we're not going to work together. Let's call it a no. So attitude is the thing number one. And then the other thing I look for is situation. And this is actually a huge thing, is I didn't realize this for years, and I actually just had this chat privately with Josh Nelson about his plumbing and HVAC agency. For those of you guys who don't know Josh, they got a Inc. 5000 fastest growing HVAC company. He's got a really cool group, also wrote a book, and I wrote a little forward in his second book. But one of the things we were talking about is, like, I was asking Josh, how did you come up with your client criteria? Like, how did you decide who was the right fit we're working with you? And I see this universally across the board. Just so you guys know, the people who make the worst clients in general across industries, and I'm not saying this is 100% true, but it's 100% useful, is almost always single solo operators. Like, one-person businesses. So, like, if you're working with a roofer and he spends most of his day on the roof, probably going to be a bad client. If you work with a dentist and he's like doing it all himself, if you work with a lawyer and the lawyer is the business, there's no paralegal, there's no secretary, there's no like hired help, usually those people make for bad clients. So the second thing I look for is situation, and it can depend a little bit on your offer, but the way I look at it is I just look at the clients I've had in the past. Like, the past is the biggest clue of this. Like, I've had ones where we were mega successful and did shit, and I've had ones who, like, you know, they hate you and they're all bad leads. And I can actually remember there was a time, to like, just to illustrate this, I want to say it was like 2015, 2016. We were one of the first people to start running Facebook ads for personal injury attorneys. I didn't know anybody else doing it at the time we were doing it. I'm sure there were other people, but like, at least in my mind, we were the first ones doing it. Although I'm reasonably certain we couldn't have been the only ones doing it. But having said that, I remember I had about 20 clients in about 2015, 2016. And I remember 3 of the clients just thought I was the scum of the earth. They were like, they're all fucking bad leads, and you're just ripping me off, and you're just ringing up my credit card in the Facebook. This is total fucking horseshit. And I remember I had a couple other clients, and I reached out to one of them, and I said, like, how are we doing? And he said, great. He said, like, we've already closed 3 cases this week just from the stuff you sent, and we averaged out all our lead sources, and you guys are the cheapest cost per case. Like, keep doing this Facebook shit because it's working. And I couldn't figure it out. For us, like, why? I got 20 clients. 3 of them hate me. 3 of them love me. The rest are on some spectrum in the middle. And what I eventually figured out is the 3 who loved me had all done some kind of training to get good at the phone. So they had hired outside companies to figure out how to follow up with people, what to say, how often, how quickly, how to handle greetings, how to answer questions, how to close. And so they already knew how to close on the phone, and I was adding to it. So I started to make this a condition of business. This is the second bucket, known as the situation. Is now, if I was to go back in time into that agency, I would make that a condition of doing business. Either you have to have gone through this phone training, or you have to be willing to go through it, because otherwise you're going to waste your fucking time with our leads, right? So if you combine those 2 things of attitude and situation, you'll almost bat 1,000. Not like if you get 20 clients, you'll have 19 good ones. And the one who doesn't work out, you'll say thanks and part ways as friends. But if you really nail the attitudes and situations, and the situation thing in particular, they have to be binary conditions. So like one of the things is like when we're running our retargeting offer, like you have to have 1,000 visitors per month. The answer to that question is either yes or no. Yes, I have 1,000 visitors per month. No, I do not. There's no middle ground, right? So usually because I see this like in a coaching space where people go, are you coachable? Coachable is not fucking binary. It's a vague condition. But if you can nail your ideal client down to like 1, 2, or 3 conditions that have to be met in order for them to be successful with you, you'll be really good at picking the ideal clients. Booz also adds, what type of phrasing would you use in the copy to avoid those type of operators? Basically, having a good system to process leads. I talk to issues and symptoms and problems that are only related to people that have those. So like, for example, okay, we're just getting into the water damage restoration space. I'm still pretty new at it, but knowing that I know that single solo operators make for bad people, my copy talks about like, are your crews of guys standing around doing nothing because you don't have work for them, right? So if you're a single solo operator, you don't have a crew of guys, so you like that message does not register for you, right? But if you do and you're bigger, like, of course, right? You're like, yes, like, so we can always speak to symptoms. Like different people at different levels have symptoms. In the beginning, when I first wrote for lawyers, my messaging was like, hey, do you desperately need clients? Do you need like to do something urgently? And I would get broke, desperate people. And it's almost like if I was thinking about it as a bait, like I'm using a boxed macaroni and cheese in the ghetto. If you fish with boxed macaroni and cheese in the ghetto, don't be surprised when like broke people come out on the other end. But the flip side of that is you can go to the country club and you can fish with lobster mac and cheese and caviar, right? Like with white truffle shaved on it, and you'll get a very different kind of person to respond. And so like we've also run stuff that says like, hey, if you're a personal injury attorney and you're finding that all of a sudden your TV cases are costing you more than $1,000 per signed case, we figured out an alternative to get them way cheaper using whatever. Again, the only person who responds to that is a lawyer who spends money on TV and is finding his cost rising. That's a symptom unique to somebody who has money. And like just one more example so you can wrap your head around this. I have a friend who does stuff with like accounting and stuff like that, and there's a tax in the United States. I don't know it personally because I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm actually Canadian, for those of you guys who don't know. But it's let's call it the ABC tax, and only basically affluent, accredited investors have to pay the ABC tax. And so their headline is just paid too much ABC tax this year. Like anyone who's broke just scrolls past that because they're not paying ABC tax at all. So I've never had, I shouldn't say, I've had like fish eggs on sushi, but I don't know if I've ever had caviar. But you want to speak to symptoms of people who got money and the challenge they have. So I'll give you like one more example just to wrap your head, because this is really, really powerful stuff if you get it. Like Lana in our mastermind, one of the things she was doing is like working with yoga studios, and she kept finding like broke people would respond. And initially her messaging was like, hey, like, do you desperately need to fill your class? And surprisingly, like that's like macaroni and cheese in the ghetto, you get broke people. And then she started changing her messaging to, hey, do you have like one of your locations that is lagging behind and you need to fill up? Well, now you're speaking to somebody who has multiple locations and you need to start filling that. So the more you speak to symptoms of people with money, the more you'll call them out, the more they'll be the ones who respond. So I hope that's helpful, my man. We got Rick says, Frankie Fihn, if you have time, could you address these on Monday's Q&A, please? Following your 90-day to 20K, if you use a white label to fulfill, how do you recommend structuring a first date offer, since there's usually a setup fee on top of a monthly service fee? Along those lines, most white label service providers have an NDA. How would you or could you demonstrate proof of results if you can't? These are really deep, good questions, Rick. Okay, so firstly, if you want to use a white label to fulfill, how do you structure a first date since there's a setup of a monthly fee? This is a thing that I don't think is understood enough financially in most industries, but especially true in an agency. For years, this is the benchmark we ran in our agency. It's still true, by the way. If I got a $3,000 per month service, then I'm willing to spend $3,000 at least to go get that client. So I'm willing to basically make no money on month 1 because I know I'll get it back on month 2 and month 3 and month 4 and month 5. And while that client stays a long time, sometimes it can be harder if you go into the negative, which you have to do sometimes as your agency gets bigger, because suddenly you're paying a sales guy, you're paying ads, you've got fulfillment teams, you got like sales manager, you got account managers, like things like that can happen as you get bigger. But for the most part, like if you can spend 1 month to get a client, then you're winning. You're winning at life. So in that scenario, like if I spend $2,000 to make $2,000, I'm totally okay with that. So that's thing number 1. Having said that, you can always create more miniaturized versions of your offers, even with white labels. I don't have a one-size-all-fits answer to that. Like I would just go to the white label partner and say, like, hey, I'm looking to create a little first date offer based on this. Like, can we try this? And so I've actually found, by the way, in what we're doing right now is everybody just needs a fucking website. Like, and I don't really like want to make websites, but that's the first date. Like and I'm only going that direction because like people are getting asked that. So we've actually just had a conversation about like one of our shoe stores about being their like official web designer that like does all the web design for them. So that's like huge. But of course, I'm not after just selling a website. It's all the back-end SEO and pay-per-click and things like that I'm going to sell. So if I sell a website and make no money on the website, I'm 100% okay with that because it's month 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down the road that I'll get it. So I want you to think about that a little bit differently. Secondly, along those lines, you mentioned most white label providers have an NDA. You can't always show their proof of results. So this is a deeper thing. I'll tell you what happened. This just sharing a little bit of my journey. When I first broke into the legal space in like 2015, 2016 or whenever that was, I remember lawyers drove me fucking crazy for a period of time. Like I had 40, 50, 60 sales calls and they all ended the same way where they'd say, hey, can you tell me about somebody else you've done this for? Like, can I just talk to them and make sure that like you're the real deal and you are what you say you are? And because they were the first client, I couldn't answer that. And so like it was this constant like never went anywhere. And it was really fucking disappointing, by the way. And so inevitably what happened is I eventually did get over that hump and I got a couple of clients and I started using those case studies like my life depended on it and got rid of those kind of objections. And then what ended up happening is I started to notice a pattern in people who would ask me for like, hey, can you send me case studies and results? There was something like unresolved in their mind, and so they wanted to talk to other people to feel it out. And what would happen is they would spend like 2-3 weeks trying to have a conversation with that person, and they would never buy because there was like this back and forth that never happened. And so I started to actually reach a point when I had enough business where I started to say no. They'd say, hey, can I talk to somebody, blah, blah, blah. And I'd say, hey, like that's a perfectly valid request, but I'm going to tell you no. And I'll tell you the reason why is because usually what happens is it takes 2 to 3 weeks to end up reaching the clients. And then you do. And then like all this momentum is lost. And it just bothers our clients. Like they got stuff to do in the day other than answer questions about us. Like they run law firms, not just like, answer questions about their marketing agency. And what would happen, I was like, is there something I can help you resolve now? Like, it sounds like there's something in your mind. And I'll tell you the biggest thing that it will actually get you over the hump is, this is a writer downer, by the way. If they will buy into your plan, they will buy into your service. And I've mentioned this before. This is a cheat code to find out where you are in a sales conversation. So you talk about their problems and what they're trying to do, blah blah blah, and you say this would be what I would do for you. If you ask people what do you think of that plan, and they give you an answer like that's exactly what I need, they'll buy what you're selling on the next step. And if they say something like, well, we kind of tried SEO before, and like this all sounds good, but like SEO's never really worked for me, then you have to resolve that thing and explain where you're different. And then you go, again, you see how we're different? They say, yeah. And you go, what do you think of that plan? And if they say, yes, that sounds like what I need, then you'll get them over the hump. Now, the reason I tell you this is because there are complete fucking beginners who sell shit every day and have no case studies and have no proof and testimonials. And the biggest way they do that is because they have a real fucking plan. So like, for example, even if I'm being hired as a web designer and I've never built a single fucking website in my entire goddamn life, but I walk into a meeting with a prospect and I have a mock-up and I say, this is what I want to build for you, or I have an example website and I say, I want to make a site like you, or for you, just like this on WordPress, and they agree with that plan, they'll get into it. And so often I see, like, when beginners get over the hump, it's almost always because they just show up better prepared to their meetings with a plan. So if you got case studies and you got proof and you got testimonials, they help. Don't get me wrong. Of course they fucking do. But you don't need them. The other thing is, if you can nail your market's painful problems and symptoms in language better than they can describe it themselves, they're going to fucking hire you, and they're going to assume you have the solution, even if you've never done it for somebody. So I want you to imagine, like, okay, Rick, imagine you're sitting, you spend an afternoon golfing, and you're sitting at the bar, but you notice, like, man, my left elbow really fucking hurts, and it makes me kind of, like, slice the ball a little bit, or I got a hook. Well, I forget which one's which. Anyways, let's say a slice. And your elbow hurts. And you're sitting next to a guy at the bar, and he goes, you ever feel like when you go out there that after a while your left elbow starts to hurt and you start slicing the ball? And you go, yeah. Well, if that guy says, all right, I'll see you later, and he gets to walk up out of the bar, you're going to, like, almost chase him down. Like, what do you do about it? How do you fix it, right? Like, I know exactly what you mean. Like, they're going to assume because you describe their problem in such well-formed details. I would find this with lawyers, like the first, 40 sales calls, they would say, I have roller coaster income. And I'd say, what do you mean? And they would say, well, I got like this many referral partners, and some months they send me a lot, and some other months they send me very little. And I would say, and why is that a problem? And they go, well, I don't know whether I should be scaling up and hiring people or conserving money and trying to keep the lights on. And then they said the magic line is like, I feel like I have no control over my own business. Well, once you hear that 10 times in a row, you can, like, pretty much guess the 11th and the 12th and the 13th person are all going to say it. And there's a powerful thing you can do when somebody says something like, you say to them something like, they'd say, hey, like, I need more clients. And I go, hey, let me just ask you, Rick, do you feel like you got roller coaster income because you got between like 3 and 6 referral partners, and some months they send you a lot of business, other months they send you almost none, and you don't know whether you should be scaling up and hiring people or just like trying to conserve money and keep the lights on, and at the end of the day you got no control over your own business? And if Rick goes, yeah, that's exactly it, I'm almost guaranteed to sell them whatever I got, even if I've never done it for anybody before. So almost always, if you fine tune the wording and the messaging based on what people tell you, you can skip the need for like proof and demonstration and results. So those two things is like really nail their symptoms and really nail the plan you're going to do to solve it, and show up prepared with a real plan. And you actually don't need case studies and things like that. Case studies are when people are trying to figure out, but ultimately all they want to know with a case study is, can you do this for me? Right? They're trying to look for somebody who's like them that you've done it for. They help, don't get me wrong, but if you don't have them, it's not the be-all end of the world. John says, new client, one video, show results, show geo-grids, go over proposal, all on video, done deal, easy peasy. I love it, my man. There's a magic to closing people in video, and that is hidden word called leverage. Not enough people think about this in the growth of your business. If you have to do something one-to-one, then you're going to be limited eventually by the energy it takes. If you can just send videos out and close, then your best performing salesperson is working night and day for you. Even when you're like sleeping, like I sometimes wake up to deals. That's kind of awesome, actually. I go to sleep and I wake up and somebody's like, I'm in. Okay. All right. And often I hadn't even heard of that person before. Like they've been, watching something or seeing an ad or something like that. It's a really, really cool experience. So I'm glad you unlocked that level of the game, because like it's all smooth sailing from here. I shouldn't say that. It's not all smooth sailing, but it's better sailing. Let's say that. Sharia, number 2, says, should we mention price of our offer in the first email to a prospective client? Okay, I think most people misunderstand what the point of message 1 is. And because they misunderstand what the point of message one is, the messages they write are kind of shit. I'm glad you're getting some good ideas here, Booze. Appreciate that, my man. Good to hear that. I love hearing the insights and breakthroughs. So here's the thing, okay? Hold on. I just lost my train of thought. What were we talking? Oh, or price in the first perspective message. Okay, what most people think message one is designed to do is to sell something, and it seems to make logical sense. Okay, you guys have services for sale, and so message one is like, buy my shit, and because of it, people give the whole thing in message one. And I'm not saying that can't work, because I've seen lots of people do it. But what you're really opening the door to is a high-ticket, ongoing relationship. And so the point of message one in general... I lost a little music here. The point of message one is to invoke curiosity. All high-ticket sales begin with curiosity. And curiosity is like, that sounds interesting. Tell me more about it. So people confuse what the point of trying to get message number one is, like, buy my shit, when actually it should be, hey, that sounds interesting. Let's do more. Let's talk more about it. And you can close people, by the way, in like message 2, 3, or 4. But because they try and go for the whole thing in message one, it's usually like basically somebody walks up to a girl and says, hey, you look hot, you want to fuck? Or, hey, you look hot, you want to get married? Right? Like, okay, if you do that enough times, it will work, but you would be way better to say, hey, like, I noticed something really unique about you, and I had an idea for us, like, I'd love to go to this coffee shop with you. What do you think? You're going to have, like, just better overall results with it. Business is relationships. So, like, the reason I make these sleazy examples is kind of make the point. So what I'm trying to do, and the point of it is, if you put the message or the price in the message up front, which I'm not opposed to putting your price, but especially if it's a new offer, you introduce two variables, right? They may like the offer but not like the price, and so they may not respond because of that. What's up, my man, Carlos? And so you give them two reasons to say no. So with a new offer, I just like to see if they would raise their hand and say, I'm interested. Because if they won't do that, you won't get to step 2. You won't get to step 3. So like for me, like my opening message for a lot of years is like, do you guys do motorcycle cases? That's it. And they say, yeah. And I say, well, I can bring them to you for this much. Would you be interested in getting motorcycle cases for that price? And they'd say, tell me how it works. And I go, here's how it works. And then they go, okay. Or they'd say, no thanks, not interested. Right? So, but that's done over like 2 or 3 messages. That's not done from like, I just met you, let's jump straight into bed. So you'll have better success if you understand, like you're going to close people, but just do that in message 2, 3, 4. Like you want to talk about price, yes. And then once you have it dialed in, then you can turn that into an ad and just be very bold and upfront and put your price. So I think that works. Boo says, do you suggest email marketing? Do you have a video or article on your way of doing it? Do you have a theme for each message? What do you think about a line like this in the ad copy? This is a premium service for premium business owners, someone who wants the best, blah, blah, blah. So let me handle those a little bit differently because those are a couple of questions kind of all back to back. Firstly, if I'm trying to break into a new niche, there are 100 ways to do it. So I never want to tell you like this is the way to be successful. But I think it is, of all the ways I've ever learned, the best way, which is to connect with the influencers in your space who have all the buyers and do shit for them. So I'll give you 2 stories that kind of illustrate the point, okay? Story number 1, got a good friend of ours in the group, Justin Brook. A lot of you guys follow him already. Justin blew up a Facebook ad agency about 7-8 years ago, and how he did it is he reached out to Russell Brunson, sent him a box of brownies in the mail, and said, hey, Russell, I got a really cool idea for some ads for you, and I want to run it for you and show you it works, and I don't want you to pay me anything, but I just want to be able to tell people like I did this for Russell Brunson. Russell said, all right, called him up, Russell Brunson himself. He ran the ads, crushed it, and then Russell started referring him people in his mastermind. And Russell started and then not only that, how much stronger is his ad that he's going to run when he says, these are the ads, here's my case study, Russell Brunson. He's going to attract the highest level, best people and the best kind of clients. So a lot of times people say, never do shit for free. I disagree. I think if you're doing it for the influencers in the space who control all the business already, it's a smart way of doing it, because essentially doing something for Russell Brunson got him the greatest case study and unlocked his entire mastermind. So when I was 13 years old, my first ever kind of real job, I went door to door selling chocolate bars, and this is just a summer job. We'd have a big heavy cooler full of chocolate bars, and you'd kind of carry it from door to door and slug this thing along. And you knock on the door and you open the cooler and say, would you be interested in buying some chocolate bars for the blind? And some people say yes, some people say no. A certain percentage of people don't answer the door or aren't home. And if you do that for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, eventually you will get your needs met and you will sell out your chocolate, which does it usually took 6, 7, 8 hours. And that's what I consider outreach. Everybody always wants to start this game at outreach, and I'm a big fan of outreach, but not the way most people do it, to answer your question, Boost. So if you're knocking on 8,000 doors, eventually you will sell some chocolate bars. But what I found works better is once a month our manager would go to the local grocery store called Zehrs, and he would go to the manager and say, hey, we're from this organization for the blind. Would it be okay if we sold some chocolate bars outside the store? And he would pack all his kids in this tiny little Geo Metro and all the chocolate bars. And what would happen is we would all be inevitably sold out of chocolate in 10 or 15 minutes. I shit you not, we would be out of chocolate in 10 or 15 minutes. And it occurred to me this just made a lot of sense, because the grocery store had all the buyers, they had all the flow, they had spent 50 years organizing that thing, and so standing in front of them, we had a new buyer every 10 seconds, and they came to us, we didn't have to do anything. Well, this is true in every industry, is there's an equivalent of a grocery store, the influencers in the space who sell all the tools and the software and the courses and the mastermind. So when I get into a new space, I write outreach messages, but they're very careful one-to-one written to those people. And that's how I like to do it. I'm not saying that's the only way to be successful. You can do it with paid ads, and you can do it with all kinds. You can do it with outreach at scale. You can do it with Twitter. You can do it with content. There's a gazillion ways you can be successful with it. You can do it with referrals. You can do it with going to face-to-face meetings. You can do it with going to events. But my favorite way is to connect with the influencers, because I know if I just get in one grocery store, and this happened to me, I'll tell you, in my second agency, I'll give you a secret of why we blew up. I ran a bunch of ads, and one of the ads got seen by a guy who ran an industry association. He jumped on a sales call with me and didn't tell me he ran the industry association. I didn't know. We had a really good call, and I didn't sell him anything. I just said, let's keep in touch in the future. He reached out a few months later and said, are you interested in helping me with blah, blah, blah? And I said, yes. And then that got me into speaking conferences and masterminds. And before I knew, I going to all the conferences. This obviously pre-COVID, because I don't do a lot of that stuff now. But it basically blew my business up, really, really, really fast. And so I realized it's because I got connected with an influencer who controlled all the buyer flow. So that's how I do it now, is identify who the Russell Brunsons are in your industry, do cool shit for them, and you don't have to write a lot of messages. You can write 1 to 3 messages a day and fucking crush it. Now, as far as your question, what do I think about the line, this is a premium service for premium business owners? I think it's not specific enough. I would focus on who the premium business owners you most want are and just call them out. For me, that's I want a personal injury law firm with at least a staff of 5 and up to 100 that spends at least, X amount of money on TV every month. So I call them out. That's what a premium business is to me. So nailing down the specifics. And then a premium service, you do that by talking about a premium outcome that they want. I think that will work better. I'm not saying your line is bad. It's not a bad line. But if you... almost always the problem with offers is they're not specific enough. And we always think I want to go bigger. I always and I've seen offers that were there's something hey, if you're a business owner, I can increase your profits. And it almost says nothing to anyone. It's way more powerful to say, if you're a personal injury law firm with between 5 and 50 staff and you're spending $100,000 per month on TV, we can get you motorcycle cases for $1,000 per signed case. That's how I say, if you're a premium person, we can bring you a premium result. So it just needs probably a little tweaking and massaging in my mind. Phil says, I'm going to interview an owner in my niche. He isn't a client. Just want to use it to post, clip up, establish authority in the space. Thinking how to conduct it, what types of questions to ask, in a way, what would be really beneficial to other business owners in the space. Any thoughts from those who've done it would be awesome. Firstly, Phil, this is a really smart idea, great idea, I would even say, because people want to hear from other business owners like them. So what I focus on in doing that is really, really simple. You're just looking at the story, like any movie stories. Like, it starts with the character and they're in a situation, and then they go on this great adventure, and then there's like challenges and difficulties along the way, and they have to figure things out, and then they get to the end, and when they look back, they go, man, I wish I would have known this at the beginning because I could have made my journey easier. So you want something like that. Like a business owner, tell us who you are, what you're up to. Tell us like the challenges you've been through. Tell us like what results you figured out. Tell us some of the things you tried, both that worked and didn't work. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back, what would you do differently? Like, that's all like really super valuable stuff. You can get a lot of mileage out of that. So hope that's helpful to you or anybody else who's looking to conduct interviews. Jeremy says, of all the advice you received for your agency, what's the number one advice where it clicked? I don't know if it was external advice for me, Jeremy, but like there was something that clicked for me when I really started looking back at a point where I had had hundreds of clients, and I started to just ask myself the question, why did some clients work out and some didn't? And I started to realize like I could find commonalities. And I literally just made a line down the middle of the paper and I went, bad clients, good clients. And I started to list all of the things that made good clients and bad clients. And I started to ask myself the question, like, could I make good clients happen on purpose? Could I focus on the people who like had the money, were easy to deal with, set expectations, got them results, they're happy, they stay long term, they tell friends and family and colleagues about me, and those kind of people? And what I realized is the answer is yes, is that you can create good clients on purpose. But I'll tell you the biggest reason most people don't. They don't even have clarity about what makes a good client in the first place, and therefore their criteria for a good client, it's not like a bad thing, it's just they don't know any better, but it's like anyone, any dentist who, any chiropractor who, anyone who spends money on Google ads anywhere, anytime, any place. And because it's not specific enough, they end up with a mixed bag, and bad clients will drive you fucking crazy. And they'll drive your staff crazy, and they'll make it hard to scale. Good clients, when you only have good clients, by the way, I would find if I had like 20 clients at different points in my agency, and 3 of them were unhappy with me, guess what occupied all my thinking? Like when I'm laying in bed, about to go to sleep, and I'm thinking about my business, I'm worried about the 3 unhappy clients. And I've found it's way easier just to have only 17 good ones. And then you feel good about what you do. And you also become more powerful and persuasive at selling it because you have clear ideas about who it's for and who it's not for. And you don't try to be for everybody. I always say in a lifestyle agency, you're not going to have more than 100 clients. Like max 100 clients. So it's about nailing those. Often it's like most people to hit their goals like need 20 clients. Like you don't need a huge number of people. So focus on nailing those 20 people and your life will get a whole lot easier. My man, Seth is the man on client selection. By the way, so much of what I learned on client selection, just so you guys know, I learned from this guy just watching him do what he does. He always finds, like, I've found nobody better on the face of the earth to really focus in on who are the players and where to go, and like those closed door meetings of just like kind of inserting himself in there. And I learned a ton of stuff from Seth on just really focusing in on like who are the right people, because what ends up happening is the brokest clients, like, no, I'm not saying 100% true, but often are the ones who complain the most, like 90% of the time true, will run you ragged, will drag you around, it's never good enough, it's never fast enough, and you won't feel good about what you're doing. And it makes it very, very hard to grow if you're not really sure people are going to be happy with you, as where if you make it a premium client or a premium service for premium clients, you'll scale much better and you'll enjoy it a lot more. Florian says, hey guys, I need your help with the structure of Freelancers. I'm currently making about $25K in revenue, but I'm a digital nomad, meaning I can only work remotely with my team. Now my question about the structure, do you recommend start with one employee and train him in digital marketing and also let him do the reporting calls and all the communication with clients? Or the second approach, hire freelancers, performance marketers for the respective field, even if it would be only a few hours per month, and we have
Account manager, take care of the clients in terms of communication. Carry the info to clients. Both are common concepts in marketing agencies. Thanks for your input, especially a justification of your tips. So here's the deal, Florian. There's not a one-size-fits-all answers for everybody, but I find like most people who are in this agency business fit into like two distinct categories. One is they really love selling and growing and marketing the business and being the face of it. And so for those people, the first hires make sense to be in delivery and do all the things that they're not good at or that they don't enjoy doing. The flip side of that is in the other bucket, I find a whole bunch of people who are very good at delivering it and love geeking out on SEO or pay-per-click or websites and are really good at it and know how to do their craft, but aren't the best at selling and marketing. And so the first hire should be based on things that you hate doing, in my experience, because what you usually find is that there's people out there who love the things you hate. Like, I have to say that again because that's a writer downer. There's people out there who love the things you hate. And so, you know, I actually have this, like, our Facebook ads guy right now, like our main media buyer. I have to check in with him now and then. I'm like, are you still like enjoying working with me? He says, love it. Love what we're doing. And like for me, I hate Facebook ads. So like I have to like remind myself, not everybody hates Facebook ads the way I do. Like he feels like he's learning a ton. It's really cool. It's challenging for him. He learns new stuff. So there's not a one size fits all answer. So like the first thing I look at is like, where is your energy leaking into stuff that like really like causes you misery? So that can be account management. It can be communicating with clients. It can be fulfillment. It can be selling. It can be creating content. It can be a lot of places. It's different things to different people because we all like different things. But I look at where's the energy leak. For me, it's like fulfillment and operations. I have to get people in that as fast as possible because like I just know how I'm built. And I won't do a good job over that. I usually intend to do an awesome job, and I get really excited at the start, but over time, like it's just not fun to me, and it becomes a grind, and I eventually let the balls drop. So I have to bring in people to do those things. I'm not saying I'm 100% got it all figured out. I most certainly do not. But I found like the more and more I focus on bringing people who complement my skill set, since we just had our man on, Seth Price, He's probably like really awesome at doing that because like he's also got a law firm, and in his law firm, these are the partnerships I see work the best. He's the face of the brand. He sells it, promotes it, he brings in the business. He's the rainmaker. And then there is another partner in this case. His name is David, and David is like the great lawyer who knows how to deliver great legal service and wants to understand the law and help clients and do those kind of things. And together they make a great partnership because they complement each other. Usually that's how you want to think about like bringing in staff members, especially your first one, is like what would complement the best by taking the worst of it. So I look at what am I spending 80% on my time on that I really hate doing. That's hire number one. And one tip that'll make your life easier is document that start to finish. And what you'll find is it's easier to replace yourself in that. Last question we got on the docket, almost an hour. Listen to me guys ramble. You guys are troopers, those of you who are still here. What is your opinion on display and banner ads? How is the quality in the home improvement vertical? I don't think display ads are either good or bad. It depends on the greater strategy behind that. And I'll tell you on that, one of my mentors whose name is Ken in the legal space, he told me there was a period in his law firm where he had a lot of billboards in and around his town, and he was convinced that his billboards weren't doing anything. So he decided to get sneaky, and he put a tracking phone number on his billboard. And what he found is he got exactly 0 calls from his billboards. And so he concluded, falsely I might add, that billboards do nothing. So he took down every billboard on the highway. And he said as soon as he did it for the next 6 months, he noticed his radio calls went down, his TV calls went down, his bus stop call, everything else he was tracking got lowered, and he said he rebought all the billboards and they started working again. So I found that display and banner ads, their best use is to support other media. I don't usually find they work in and of themselves, but if you're running certain kind of ads and then you like use banner ads and stuff to expand that, I'll tell you who's really good at that in the online space is Sam Ovens. I remember like when Sam Ovens, like especially a few years ago, he was really pushing his consulting stuff. I clicked on one of his ads one time. I remember like a day later, I'm on the toilet in some app, and there's a Sam Ovens banner ad because he had retargeted me. And I started to I didn't click the banner ad, but Sam Ovens quickly became a much bigger deal on my radar just from the amount of retargeting he was doing with display ads. So this is one of the tricks we've done for quite a few clients. It's just add in a bunch of really hardcore retargeting. You can actually, for $1 or $2 a day, for most of you guys, for the amount of traffic you have, make quite a bit of impact just by retargeting ads and having banner and billboard ads and things like that. And you don't have to constantly change them up. So the key with banner ads is to me, they have to be in a more comprehensive strategy. If you're just standing alone testing banner ads, I'm not saying they can't work. I'm sure there's probably people who do make them work, but I've never seen anybody just make banner ads work alone. But I've seen lots of people make them work in a more comprehensive strategy. So I hope that's helpful to you, my man. And it looks like that's all the questions we got for this week. And appreciate you guys. You guys are the man. For those of you guys who are interested in the Wolfpack I mentioned, you can go to beyondagencyprofits.com/Wolfpack. And that's all we got. I think an hour listening to me ramble on a Monday morning is good. I appreciate you guys so much. I love seeing the growth and the things you guys are building. And that's all I got. Much love, and may the force be with you.
Guys, if you like this video, you're also going to want to grab some free bonuses, which you can get at our website, Beyond Agency Profits. To make it easy for you, I've put the links to it in the description of this video, as well as pinned in the top comment. And we've got a couple of awesome things. This is what you'll get after you sign up. You get some of our best training, how we're closing clients over Loom videos, how we sometimes sign clients that is not a misprint for under $5 US, how to demonstrate your value in amazing ways, trainings, how to have your clients write the best copy of your life, how we're closing without phone calls, campaigns that we've generated for clients that have done over $100,000, as well as scripts you can use to get conversations going with clients in under 10 minutes. All you got to simply do is go there, enter your name and email address, and then this is what you'll see on the other side. So if that's interesting to you, make sure to click the links below, and I will see you on the other side.